There's a kind of strength most people overlook, the strength of restraint. Not because you're powerless, but because you're centered. When you stop jumping at every discomfort, when you no longer need to explain yourself, defend your choices, or prove your worth, you realize how much energy you've been wasting. You start to see that chaos only exists when you engage with it, that arguments dissolve when you don't fuel them, that pressure fades when you no longer resist it. There's an intelligence in doing nothing, a quiet confidence that can't be shaken because it doesn't need validation. Most people react out of fear of being seen the wrong way, fear of missing out, fear of losing control. But when you truly understand that not everything requires your energy, you stop living on edge. You start choosing peace over pride, clarity over conflict, presence over proving. Doing nothing doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're no longer a puppet to every external situation. Once you stop needing to intervene in every moment, something unexpected happens. Life starts revealing itself. You begin to notice what was always there but constantly drowned out by your overthinking, by your need to fix, control, or impress. The silence that once felt empty begins to feel like home. It's in that silence where your real power shows up. When you let things unfold instead of trying to mold them, you begin to trust what's underneath all the noise, your intuition. And intuition doesn't scream for attention. It waits quietly until you're still enough to hear it. That's when you start winning. Not through effort or strategy, but through clarity. You no longer chase after things that were never meant for you. You don't force conversations that were never meant to happen. You stop investing energy into people or outcomes that are draining you. And here's the most surprising part. Things start working in your favor because you stop trying so hard. People respect your calm more than your hustle. Opportunities arise because you're not chasing them blindly. Peace starts growing where anxiety used to live. You're not ignoring life. You're moving in rhythm with it. You're responding when it matters, not reacting out of habit. You're letting space do what space does, reveal what actually deserves your energy. The real shift begins when you realize that your presence alone has weight. You don't need to speak louder, move faster, or prove your worth with constant action. There's a quiet kind of confidence that forms when you stop grasping for outcomes. It's not passive. It's powerful because it's rooted in trust, not tension. People start noticing that something is different about you. You're not drained, you're not always rushing, and you're not overly reactive. There's a steadiness in you, a calm that others can feel, even if they can't explain it. And ironically, that calm makes you more magnetic than any performance ever could. You stop wasting energy on things that never mattered. That one notification, it can wait. That uncomfortable silence in a conversation, you don't need to fill it. That pressure to prove something online or fit into someone else's idea of success, gone. You're no longer living life like it's a constant test. Instead, you're letting life come to you. And that's not laziness, that's wisdom. You begin to understand that not everything is yours to control, that some things, maybe the most important things, unfold when you finally give them space to. You start observing more, listening more, feeling more. Not to overanalyze, but to be present with what's actually happening, not what you fear or hope will happen. That kind of clarity changes the way you move through the world. You respond with intention instead of impulse. And that's where life really begins to open up, because now you're aligned with it, not working against it. What's wild is how much mental space you free up once you stop trying to control every tiny thing. You start noticing the small details you used to overlook, the tone in someone's voice, the way your body reacts to stress, or the little signs life throws your way when you're not busy forcing an outcome. You're finally tuned in, not just turned on. And with that comes this underrated superpower, patience. Not the kind of patience where you grit your teeth and suffer silently. No, it's something else. The kind where you realize, I don't need it right now. I just need to stay open to it. That mindset alone, it flips your entire relationship with time, effort, and even disappointment. You're no longer in survival mode. You're not chasing the next fix, the next validation, the next breakthrough. You're letting your life breathe. You're letting relationships breathe. And in that pause, everything feels different, better, realer, lighter. Ironically, You end up getting more of what you actually wanted, not because you ran after it, but because you made room for it. The opportunities that align with your energy start to show up. The right people cross your path. You feel better, not because the world changed, but because your relationship with it did. You don't have to hustle for peace anymore. You carry it with you. You're no longer reacting to life. You're interacting with it, intentionally, fully. That's a different game. And the truth is, once you've experienced this shift, you don't want to go back. And here's something no one really talks about. When you stop gripping so tightly, people actually respect you more. Not because you're aloof or detached in some fake spiritual way, but because your energy shifts. You stop radiating neediness. You stop giving off that vibe that says, "Please complete me," or "Tell me I'm enough." And that changes everything. Conversations become easier. You listen more than you speak. Not because you're trying to appear wise, but because you're genuinely present. And people can feel that. They trust it. Because it's rare. You're no longer trying to manipulate outcomes or read 5 steps ahead like a chess game. You're just in it. Real time, one step at a time. And ironically, that's what brings better outcomes faster. You're not adding resistance. You're not second-guessing your own path. You're just showing up, honest, grounded, real. This is where confidence actually comes from. Not from affirmations in the mirror or pretending you have it all together, but from knowing that you don't need to chase the moment anymore, because the moment is already enough. And when you show up like that, it's magnetic. Life doesn't just reward effort, it rewards alignment. And when you're finally aligned, not from force, but from surrender, that's when things start unfolding in ways you couldn't have predicted. Here's something that takes most people years to realize. The version of you who's constantly trying to fix everything is the same version that's keeping you stuck. And not because you're broken or doing something wrong. It's because when you constantly search for problems, your brain literally becomes wired to expect problems. Even peace starts to feel suspicious. When you finally ease off that mental accelerator, when you stop trying to control every outcome, every opinion, every tiny future moment, you start noticing something strange. Life feels quieter, but more alive. You hear the subtle things, the moments between the noise, the way someone looks at you when they feel seen. The peace in a room that doesn't need to be filled with sound. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means finally creating space. The kind of space where insight shows up, where the real answer you were searching for all along finally has a place to land. Because that answer isn't always louder, it's often still, and you can't hear it when your mind is constantly calculating your next move. So many people confuse activity with progress, but some of the biggest turning points in life come when you stop scrambling, stop strategizing, and just sit with what's here. Not because you don't care anymore, but because you finally understand that life doesn't need your control. It needs your presence. That shift is where the real power is. It's where your energy returns. You become more creative, not because you're trying to, but because the clutter in your head finally gets quiet. You connect with people more deeply, not because you're running some confidence script, but because your walls are down. You're not performing anymore. You're just showing up, and that's enough. There's this subtle truth that goes unnoticed by most. Control is often a mask for fear. And the more we fear things going wrong, the tighter we grip. But here's the paradox. The tighter you grip, the more things slip. You try to control your emotions, your image, other people's reactions. And in doing so, you lose the most valuable thing you have, your sense of ease. And when you're tense, life mirrors it back. Conversations feel forced, plans feel heavy, relationships feel transactional. You're no longer responding to life. You're bracing for it. You're not in a flow. You're in a fight. But have you ever noticed that the people who seem to glide through life aren't the ones with the most answers? They're the ones with the most trust. Not naive trust, grounded trust. They're the ones who understand that they don't need to have it all figured out because clarity arrives when the noise settles. When you stop chasing certainty, something remarkable happens. You begin to respond, not react. You move slower, but more precisely. You stop over-explaining yourself. Stop defending your every word. because you realize you're not here to convince, you're here to live. And strangely, that's what makes others trust you more. In this space, your relationships deepen. People feel safer around you, not because you say the right things, but because your presence is calm. Your energy isn't pulling, pushing, trying. It's stable, and that's rare in a world full of frantic energy. It's the difference between impressing people and impacting them. Letting go doesn't mean letting everything fall apart. It means choosing your peace over your need to prove something. And that one choice ripples into every part of your life. There's another layer to this most people miss. Control doesn't just exhaust your mind. It robs your body too. When you're always on edge trying to control outcomes, your nervous system stays in a low-grade survival state. It's not always obvious. It's not panic, not anxiety you can name, but it's there. Subtle tension in your jaw, shallow breathing, restlessness when you should be resting. And over time, this builds up into fatigue, burnout, even illness. But here's the irony. We think letting go will make us weaker, when in fact it's what makes us resilient. Because real strength isn't in micromanaging life. It's in knowing how to stand still when the storm comes, how to pause, how to stay open. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about giving space. And in that space, your mind finally has room to think clearly. You start making better decisions, not because you're analyzing harder, but because you're not clouded by desperation. You're not acting out of fear. You're choosing from clarity. That changes everything. This shift begins to shape the way you speak too. You're no longer trying to win conversations. You're not trying to control how people perceive you. You just say what feels true and let go of the rest. You begin to notice that the less you try to sound wise, the more wise you sound. Because people feel it when your words aren't coming from tension. They're coming from stillness. And this stillness, it's magnetic. Not in a flashy, attention-grabbing way, but in a quiet way that people feel. You become someone others trust, not because you're perfect, but because you're not performing. You've stopped clinging. You've stopped chasing. And because of that, things begin to find you. And maybe the most beautiful part of all this is what starts happening around you. When you stop trying so hard to control everything, people respond differently. Life responds differently. You begin to notice how things start unfolding with less resistance. Not because the world has changed, but because you're no longer pushing against it. You're flowing with it. That's not a coincidence. That's the result of inner alignment. See, when you're constantly trying to control, you're basically telling life, I don't trust you. But when you release that grip, when you trust, when you let go, you're inviting things to move toward you instead of being chased. And that's where real transformation begins. Not from force, but from space, from presence. Letting go creates a quiet kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself, the kind that walks into a room and doesn't need to be the loudest to be felt, the kind that trusts if it's meant for me, it won't miss me. And if it misses me, it was never mine. You start to live lighter, love deeper, move through life not with fear, but with freedom. So here's your moment, your turning point. If anything in you felt the weight of control, the urge to constantly hold on, maybe this is your invitation to release it. Let go. Let things find their way to you. Let life surprise you. And if you felt something shift while listening, if even a single part of you whispered, "This was for me," then I want you to comment one simple word below so I know you're still here with me. Trust. Drop it below. Just that one word. And let's see how many of us are finally ready to stop gripping and start flowing.